Hello there, it is Memorial Day Monday 2013. It's been about 5 years since I made a bee video of installing a package, so I thought I would make another one. I have a couple of fans I'd like to dedicate this to. They're ardent supporters of mine, Carrie and Elizabeth. I hope you enjoy this and try not to laugh too much this time. Anyway, I just picked up this package of bees from Rhode Island, and we're going to install it in this brand new hive that's sitting underneath it. The hives that were here out in Sutton died over the winter because of the bad winter and time to get some new bees here. So I'm not going to use any smoke today. Instead, I'm going to use some sugar water to keep the bees a little bit calm. You don't need smoke when you're working with a package of bees because they're not that aggressive. I've got my hive already prepared, so let's go ahead and open up the package of bees. Let me veil up here. Even though the bees are not aggressive, I don't like them flying in my face, so that's why I use the veil. Some people do this without the veil, but why mess with a chance? So I'm going to take the lid off of this package. Underneath this piece of wood is the can of sugar syrup that has been feeding the bees since they began their trip from Georgia. So there's already one bee trying to escape here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the can, but I need to get the bees down away from the can, and the easiest way to do that is let gravity help by just doing one of these. So that gets them out of the way. And I'll just lift the can out with my hive tool here. Oops. Don't want to drop it too much, the bees don't like that. Kind of awkward since it's just sitting in there by itself. So we'll slide it off of here. Put the cover back on. There's a few bees that come out with it. Like I said, it's got small holes in it where the sugar syrup has been dripping out to keep the bees alive. We'll just set that down. And then also right here is the queen cage, which has the queen in it and a bunch of her attendants. We'll just put that in my pocket to keep it nice and safe here, because we'll put her in a little bit later. Like I said, I'm going to squirt the bees with some sugar syrup here, so we'll give them a good coating on the side. Keep them occupied taking that off. And I'll set the bees to the side. What I've got is the hive. I'm going to take a few frames out of the hive to make some room for the bees we're going to dump in. 3 frames is usually enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the bees. Let me adjust the camera a little bit so you can get a better view of what's going to happen here. There we go, you can see the hive. What we're going to do is we're going to take the lid off. Again, give them a nice jar. Squirt them in there really good. And then we will just take the bees and dump them in. Somebody said it's like dumping in a box of Cocoa Pebbles. So we get as much of those out as we can. All right. I'll show you how they look here. You can see down inside there is all the bees. They're just clinging on since they don't have anything else to do. Now what we're going to do, I want to put the frames back in gently, because they're just kind of settled down in there. We don't want to crush them. We'll just gently set the frames in. Let the bees move out of the way. Let's see here. There we go. One more. There we go. Okay, they're all in there. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to get the queen out and give her a chance to get used to the bees by, so she's in here. See if I can get a close-up of her. You can't really see the queen, but she's in this cage, and on one end of the cage is, it's like marshmallow material that the bees will eat through. There's a metal cap on the end that I'm going to take off. Let me get my pry tool here. Pry this off, because this has the end with the opened sugar. There we go. Alright, so the sugar's in there. And what you do, you take a nail down here. You take a nail and you gently poke through the candy to make sure it's not too hard for the bees to chew through. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set this on the hive face down. I'm going to spread a little bit of the frames. I'm going to set her face down for the back of the hive right here. Alright. And normally that's too high. It would interfere with the cover, but I have a shim to put over the hive. Normally you wouldn't use this, but I also want to put a pollen patty on top. A pollen patty is a mixture of pollen and pollen substitute with some honey, and it just gives the bees a little bit of a jump start. There's plenty of pollen to be had, but if you just want to make sure, I'm just going to set this right on top. Let's see here. Move out of the way, guys, girls. All right. So what we'll do now is we will put the inner cover on. Let me make sure. Yeah, the bees are fine. Put the inner cover on. And then on top of the inner cover, we're going to put some feed. And the feed is nothing more than the same kind of sugar water that I used to spray the bees down with. In fact, I'm going to take the rest of my spray here and dump it in my jar to not waste it, because I don't need it anymore in the spray bottle. But the bees can use it for energy. They need a lot of sugar and a lot of nectar in order to draw out those frames. Those frames are empty. And I'm also going to put the can of sugar syrup here too. Those frames don't have any drawn wax on it, so they need a lot to be able to build out that wax. And again, we're just going to put a shim here and a medium frame, medium box over the top of it just to protect it, because we need to put an outer cover on it. Those jars are just too tall for the medium box by itself, so I add a shim. And we have a beehive. Nothing to it. I'll check back in about a week, make sure the queen was let out, and check to make sure the bees are doing well.